All right. Hi, everyone. Welcome to May 9th edition of Contributor Experience. Excuse some background noise while I fight for a room in our San Francisco office. And let's get started. Just to let everyone know, again, we are recording and the internet is forever. But first things first, let's do some reoccurring items. And the first is always to welcome new contributors to our crew. And I have met Zach before, but I don't know if Zach has been on this call. So Zach, why don't you just give a quick intro of yourself, and the group will give you a quick hello.
Hello, everyone. I'm Zach. Please also excuse the noise. We're doing construction in my office, so that's it's fun times. We're expanding, so that's always good. Thank you all for welcoming me with open arms. I work for a finance company here, Green Energy Fund. We were at Copenhagen last week, and we met Paris and George. And George was like, "Hey, you sound like you enjoy the contributor experience." And I said, "I do." So we've been getting involved with the community, and everyone's been super receptive and contributing where we can. So yeah, thanks guys so much for welcoming me into your crew.
Yes, welcome. Yeah, if you need anything at all from us, let us know. This is a very cool crew and also growing group. So we have lots to do and lots of ways for you to plug in. So
Sweet.
Let me know if you ever need anything.
It sounds like the Devel guide is going to be a fun one.
Yes, for sure. Actually, let me put that on the agenda too, so that we get to it. But next, Tim, you're okay with the community meeting this week? Do you need anything from us?
Yes and no. I am good with it. I think we're more or less set up. The agenda is filled in the Google Doc. There's a lot of SIGs unavailable, so we're only going to have 2 this week. I tried chasing some folks down, and I appreciate you, Paris, on Contribex jumping in, but I don't have a third one. And
okay, cool.
Too much chasing to try and track down with everybody at multiple conferences this week. So
yeah, no worries. Oh, and I see Austin's on too. Austin, I'm not sure if you've been on the call before. Did you want to give a quick introduction of yourself?
Sure. No, I've never been on the call. I'm Austin Adams. I am a development manager at Green with Zach Arnold, and I'm excited to be here to help out. And I love Kubernetes and all things cloud native.
Awesome. Cool. And then, I'm sorry, Tim, did you have something else to say?
The one thing that I don't have yet is a graph of the week. I know that's kind of semi-optional, but I saw that Elsie had just joined. Elsie, is there something that we have on the bubble for one that we could use this week?
I don't have anything off the top of my head, but let me think about it for a couple of minutes, and then I'll get back to you by the end of the call, okay?
Yeah, or just drop it in the either drop it in the agenda, or if you're not coming up with anything, drop it from the agenda, because it's optional, right?
Okay.
And really quickly for Austin and Zach, we go through reoccurring items every week on the agenda, some mostly like community management type topics and stuff that you can locate in our projects markdown file. Just to give you some context in case you're like, what's going on? So next reoccurring that we always do is a call for volunteers for office hours and meet our contributors. George, do you need any more, anything for user office hours? I see you talking, or is it me? I'm having audio issues.
Yeah, we can't hear him either.
George was saying he was having Zoom problems. So
yeah.
But no,
I know. I think he says he's good to go. I think, okay. Yeah, exactly.
Awesome.
All right. For Meet Our Contributors, we usually do that once a month, and we were at KubeCon during the last one. I just don't have the energy, I'm not going to lie, to muster up one for this month. So we're going to go ahead and skip and go to June, the first week. So if there's any contributors on the line right now that would like to help out other contributors, we have a 2 time slot deal every first Wednesday of the month. and could always use anybody on this call, because everybody on this call I know is extremely helpful and welcoming to new and current contributors. So just reach out to me separately in a DM or Slack, or just find me with a pigeon owl. All right, and then yep, I think we're good for our reoccurring items. George, I did just put you down on the agenda for KEP updates, but if you're having an audio issue, I could bump you last, or maybe that means no updates. Okay, all right, no, that's fine. Yeah, all right. Does anybody have anything that they wanted to talk about today? Maybe stuff that they've learned or that we talked about at KubeCon. Hold on, I'm putting deep dive dev guide on here. Tim, maybe did you want to talk about what the actions that came out of the dev guide discussion were?
Sure. George had captured some initial notes. I need to go back and add some things there too, and then try to turn it into a bit of an action plan. Get some names next to things, timelines, that sort of stuff. Go through a scrub on that bucket issue and just kind of start turning that into an action plan. And I've been slightly swamped in the 2 days back, but yeah, that is on the short list for the next week or so. I want to see that get moving. It felt like we had really good energy in the discussion. I'm just looking at who's here. A good chunk of the people on the call today were there, but for anybody who happens to be watching the video or whatever wasn't, the session was recorded and is up on the web now on the YouTube channel. So like that discussion and it was, I think Paris and I, our goal was to, and Aaron also, just kind of moderate or kind of seed a discussion. And that's totally what happened. Like it was mostly the room talking and sharing ideas and actually energy around making this happen. So now we got to turn that into action. Yeah,
and Phil Whitrock is very excited to help you, Tim, FYI.
So I guess that is something good that you mentioned that. So Phil and I chatted for, I don't know, a good half hour after that session and hashed some ideas around. And there's a couple things that he and I were going to do over the next week or two to try and throw out some starting point sort of stuff to say, hey, what do people think about this? Because I feel like on this sort of a thing, whether it's the blank page or that existing directory of stuff, it can be overwhelming to get started and to just kind of seed a starting point and say, like, here's some stuff that we think makes sense. Do folks want to start iterating from there? And hopefully we get the ball rolling.
Yep. And so if anybody on the call wants to help out with that, just comment on the umbrella issue. Tim, are you watching that? Is that good next steps? Cool.
Yeah, right. I may be able to hopefully arm wrestle some people from the contributors workshop into helping with that.
Yeah, that's a good idea, Gwen.
Because, yeah, just why not? So,
yes.
Yeah, I just, is there a way that I can get in touch? Did they join the channel on Slack? I don't remember anyone's names, most people's names. I mean, no, I remember names, but it's just hard to get everybody. Do we have a list of attendees or something?
Yeah, we have a list of attendees. We're actually going to send out a survey, hopefully by tomorrow at the latest, for feedback. So if you want me or George or anybody that sends it to include an action there, just let us know, like AK join the Contributor Summit Slack channel or something along those lines. That's totally fine.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah, I have 2 items. I will send them to you.
Cool. And then, Tim just put in the video discussion of our deep dive too, if you wanted, if anybody wants to check that out. And then we're also looks like Jonas is helping us out with the umbrella issue. Thanks with that. Yay for collaborative typewriting. Woo! Anyway.
Austin just said in chat that he's happy to help as well.
Awesome. Yeah, for sure. So it sounds like we could probably put dev guide on like our Q3 goals at the latest. I mean, it sounds like we might be able to get some kind of MVP out the door within the next couple of months. So that's really awesome, y'all. Good work.
Is a SIG, is there anything special we're supposed to do to like make this a sub project, or do we just kind of roll with it?
I mean, I kind of look into this as as a project of the sub-project for contributor documentation. Meaning then getting into the owner's file for the devel guide is probably another story, which is something that, I mean, I'm open to, especially Tim, if you're going to lead this project. I think George is the top owner in the contributor guide and some other folks. So we could all talk maybe today in Slack about how to get that done and how to make that official if you want, Tim.
Sure.
Cool.
I haven't formally volunteered, but I think I'm.
Yeah, I know. Well, I've been.
So now that you say it, I guess. Okay.
I've been pressing you a little, so sorry for any.
No, this is a need. It's something I'm passionate about, so I'm happy to.
You have been voluntold, sir.
Yeah, no, and Tim has been a huge advocate for this too, and he's a great leader. So I think that he'll do a really good job helping shepherd this for us. Cool. All right, and then let me write that too. I want to make sure folks are in the right owner's file for this. All right, and then Noah, it looks like you put non-dev guide on the agenda today. Do you want to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah. First of all, can people actually hear me? Okay, good. So we were bantering around an idea in Copenhagen as effectively a corollary to the dev guide, that there's enough folks in the community who want to contribute in non-developer specific ways. Folks who either have not had a software engineering or software development background, or who are rusty for whatever reason. Either they've been in management, or they've been SEs, or they've been some other capacity where they're saying, hey, I've got 20 years of engineering experience, but I might not even really know how to use Git. So we were bantering around the idea of either doing it as a separate project, or doing it as a lead-up project, or doing it as a corollary project to the dev guide to say, if you are not a dev, here are ways that you can still help, and here are ways that you can still contribute. And I haven't even fleshed out the idea fully. I'm just putting it out there right now to say, if folks think this is interesting, or conversely, if somebody thinks, no, this is really silly and is covered elsewhere in other places, I'm really just sort of putting it up for discussion right now if other folks want to comment on the particular issue.
Anyone have thoughts on that?
Incredibly nebulous.
Do we have, hello?
Yep. Oh yeah, George is live.
All right.
Yeah.
I literally just had to reboot Windows. That's garbage. All right. Sorry. Have we thought about a section in the existing contributor guide that's maybe more for, like, there's a bunch of skills I feel that in open source are like really necessary, and we always are low on, like copy editors, or like, I was wondering if maybe we consider having a section for, are you not, there's like a user journey right here. I don't like, where we could say, are you a non-engineer, but you have some skills, marketing, like someone to help us, coordinate with the CNCF on what things we should tweet, what things we shouldn't tweet. But we don't have any of that written down anywhere. We always just say we need those things, but if you want to carve out a section, I think, of the contributor guide that's just like, I don't want to call it the soft skills section, because that kind of like makes it sound not equal to the others, but.
Nope, that sounds like it would be a good place to start, and if we need to expand it in some other direction, then we could reapproach that idea later. But that definitely sounds like the place to start. Now that you've brought it up, it makes perfect sense.
Yeah, I think that we start out the contributor guide with a lot of like, hey, this is who we are, this is how we work together, and it might be really nice to just put a quick little like, hey, detour, if you want to contribute in these ways, here's how, and just have like a resource link right there. I mean, I think that's totally in the spirit.
Perfect. Okay.
And I think that's a great idea, and I'd love to be a part of that as well.
Or it looks like you got a little tiger team, Noah. We look forward to your pull requests. No, definitely plus 1,000 to what George said. All right. So, oops, I just muted myself by accident. All right, I think Tim, you put this down for Contributor Summit new contributor track video. Did you want to explain that a little bit more?
Well, I just noticed earlier in the week the video wasn't there, and then I saw some chatter online about making sure it was posted, and then I know like one of the goals going into it was, hey, if we record this and if it's successful, how do we reuse it? And I was just curious to hear, Gwen, if you and Josh had talked about that, or George, I think you might have been discussing some of it in Paris, but like, is that a sub project as well? To like, there was a massive effort the last couple of weeks to pull that together. It seemed like it was very successful. How do we kind of wrap and bundle and turn it into chunks of redeployable information and leverage it?
Yeah, so what I would like to do is find that video and maybe I don't know. It's really long is the thing, right?
Yeah,
it's a long workshop. So even just kind of it would take sort of some really amazing editing magic to put it in a way that is consumable without being daunting. That's sort of my main concern with that. I think what is possible maybe is to perhaps break it up into chapters, because I think each section of the workshop was like, I think the longest was maybe 45 minutes, and then we changed topics. So if we could do something like that, that might make it more palatable to people. But I definitely think the video should be made available, and we should find a good place to link it.
So
we also got some, we got a lot of really, really great feedback, and we also had some suggestions on how to improve it as well, which, we would like to get a chance to iterate on. One really awesome idea from the floor was to somehow find a way to do a speed match, or speed dating between new contributors and SIGs. And I'm sort of hacking out something like that with SIG CLI right now, actually, which is sort of the second item I wanted to talk to you about, Paris, with the new contributors, in where we encourage the SIGs to curate like an area or just, have a set of issues or topics that new contributors can work on, and also have someone on hand to do the mentoring. This would kind of tie in with the whole mentoring cohort thing, and then have several people start out at the same time working on this thing. So if something like that could be made part of the workshop as well, or be part of those resources, that would add to it. I'm sorry, I'm going way off track here. I just got really excited about that idea. I think I'm no longer answering Tim's question, though.
George.
Go ahead, George.
Yeah, so I assigned you and Josh this morning. I CC'd you a bug where someone took notes of the different sections that you all did, and it looks like a decent place to start for like an outline where we can like break it up into modules and stuff. I did ask Vanessa for the video. I double checked like 50 times during the day. It's definitely recorded. I think she's on a well-deserved break though, because she hasn't answered yet. So but when we get it back, I think what we should do is take the whole thing, stick it on YouTube so it's available right away for people.
Right.
But then maybe either find a volunteer who's really good at editing, or ask the CNCF if they want to help us chop it up into, like we could say, here's the outline. Can you help us kind of snip, or Jonas can edit it? Whatever it is. But
I can do some edits if you want.
Hooray!
Yeah, like we put a cool slide in
module.
front of it. It'll be like,
Yeah.
I can do that.
And we'll make the slides available too, of course. Actually, it might be a good idea to put it in the new contributor folder that we used. Since somebody took really great notes.
like we could edit it so like when you're talking, it like cuts to a slide so the people could see it. There's all sorts of cool stuff. But for sure,
Right.
video exists. It was like the one thing I wanted. Like it was my worst nightmare of not getting that video. So it for sure exists. I just don't have access to it right now.
Yeah, that's actually a really great place to put it, I think. That way it doesn't clutter the contributor guide. Just drop a link in there. That's a good idea.
All awesome ideas, Gwen, and thanks again for your work. I don't think Josh is on the call, but thanks to Josh if he were to listen to this as well.
I'll pass it on.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I feel like what Josh was talking earlier about, hey, can we teach someone to do this like in Milan in Italy or something? It feels like if we give them the video and the outline, you know.
If the funding's found, I'm totally down for going on that.
I'll take your bags, Tim.
I will also go to Italy.
Yeah,
Shall we fight?
You know what? Let's not write anything down so we have to travel everywhere.
Yes.
I would love to fund.
Yes.
It would give the best impression if we all showed up and taught it together.
I agree.
I agree. Ridiculous. All right. Next. Sadev, you had something?
Hey, Base. No. So before we move to the next section, I thought it's probably worth mentioning for the previous section we talked about, for folks, especially new contributors with engineering background or whatever background they have, right? And finding the right thing to do. And I know we did talk about sort of putting some efforts to, where they can help based on their background, right? So I just put a link in the chat. And we already have something called Find Something to Work On. So I think there are two different things, right? One is, hey, here are the things which you can help, where the community needs help, versus here, depending on your background, you fit more into certain areas. So I just want to mention that this section can be used as George and other folks, put some more efforts there. Helping the non-developers background folks, or even with the development background folks want to work something non-dev. So I think that's like a good section to me, to find something to work on, where we are listing the areas where that has documentation, that has triage, that has other things, which does not require development experience, does not need to know Git. You definitely, if you're creating PRs, but so we can add that section. That's what I was saying, or we can take that whole thing out and put somewhere else and expand it more. If that makes any sense, I thought it's worth mentioning.
Yeah,
No, that's good.
Yeah, for sure.
Definitely a good place for us to start.
Okay, cool. Thanks.
Yeah, no, thanks, Ada, for bringing that up. All right. And then the next on the agenda is mentoring automation. Now that we've got a lot of this stuff drawn out and tested, we really need to scale this and to scale, like I've mentioned before, we need to automate a lot of this and make it as self-service as possible and get all humans out of the process unless they are the mentor or the mentee. And then, therefore, I'm not the boss in these situations. So, G-Rod, do you want to talk a tiny bit about what some of your goals are? G-Rod is going to be helping us. Oh, and by the way, G-Rod's Garrett. I apologize. I just did jargon on my own coworker.
No problem.
I know, right? All right, go ahead, Garrett.
That's my username in a lot of places, so it happens. Yeah, so on the mentorship automation piece, Paris and I talked about it a little bit more in depth yesterday. She has a process right now for getting mentors and mentees signed up and into the Kubernetes organization and kind of on-ramped. But it requires her checking a spreadsheet. It requires her remembering to send emails, a lot of reminders for one person to do. And, if Paris decides, anything happens to Paris, I think the program sort of falls apart. So the idea is to document and automate as much as we can. And this is just going to be like pulling a spreadsheet, automatically triggering notifications, setting up calendar invites eventually based on like new responses, with maybe some matching logic to, get the right pools of people engaged. Shouldn't be too much work, but it sounds like an interesting little sub project, and maybe I'll set up the polling in Kubernetes as like a cron job or something, so I get to actually run it on Kubernetes. If I'm gonna probably work on like the initial design myself, but if other people want to get involved, definitely reach out to me.
Sign me up.
I see you raising your hand. So once I break it down into tasks and do my like program manager duty a little bit more, and have things that are like well sandboxed, I will send you an email and get you involved as well.
Thanks.
So one thing that I looked into when I was running the code community Slack, which I'm currently still doing, one of the things that we looked into for connecting people like that was using a Slack tool, or a Slack app rather, that's called Donut. There are a few other apps like that where you use Donut to connect people so they can have one-on-ones or sign up for a virtual coffee or things like that. So that might help.
Cool. Thanks for that, Jonas. Hold on, I'm actually writing that down in our notes.
I sent the link in the chat there.
Also donuts.
All right. I think that's the technically the last item on the agenda today. Anybody have anything else that they want to talk about, share? Or George, actually, I mean, you said, I think, no more update. Did you want to talk about Discourse at least? I know you got the domain settled.
Yeah, so Tim Hawking and I settled the domain stuff yesterday. Thanks everyone who's participated. I've only really announced it as a prototype in the on the dev list, and then someone posted it on Reddit. We have about a little less than 100 new users. No one's really responded in Kubernetes dev, so I'm thinking people are either not at work, or they either love it silently or hate it silently. So if you get feedback from people, I'd really appreciate that. But if you want to try it out, it's just discuss.kubernetes.io. We have an introduce yourself thread. We have a separate contributors thread. We've been dropping things like, oh, here's a cool video of, something you might have missed from the contributor summit. If you have any announcements or any of that kind of stuff, please let me know. And then the clock is ticking now to see if it's useful. So from now on, every week, I'll just bring stats and stuff, and then I guess we can talk about it. And then the last bit, KEP 5, unfortunately, Joe is going to have to not work on it due to some new work obligations. So I'm also going to be working on KEP 5, which is a contributor portal, which is what Jared is recommending we call it. We kind of sat down a little bit at KubeCon and kind of figured out where the community website lives and ends, and like where the contributor portal is and how that all fits together in a nice cohesive way. So I'm going to follow up with them and probably start attending the Docs SIG more regularly to make sure that we align and do things like the same theme and everything. I did get the whole community site building on the plane and everything, but then I ran into like things like George doesn't know CSS and stuff like that, as well as he used to, and it's not fun anyway. But I actually generated something that was almost not useful. So if you know anything about theming and you like Hugo a lot and you want to learn a bunch, I'm always looking for help there.
I can help you with Hugo, man.
Okay. I also don't want to use the word portal ever, but that's
yes.
We could argue about that for the rest of the cycle.
Question about the discourse page. How hard would it be to put TLS on that?
It should be secure. You should go to HTTPS.
So both HTTP and HTTPS
okay.
are available?
I do have a pull request for a redirect. Should we we should probably automatically.
Yes, HTTP should go to HTTPS.
Okay, gotcha.
Thanks.
I thought it already did that because I clicked the link this morning, and yeah, apparently not.
Okay. Well, I have a pull request. I need someone who knows more about regular expressions and Nginx can look at them if I plop that in contribx.
Zach.
He's literally wearing the shirt. Okay, that works for me.
All right. And then, George, do you want to figure out maybe if we could, I don't know, I hate saying the word gamify. That's terrible. But if we could incentivize.
Portify.
if we could incentivize people to get on and discuss things on discourse. I feel like the feedback that I'm getting is just nobody wants to post information twice on Slack and discourse and things like that. So I don't know, maybe swag giveaways or.
Yeah, so one of the things I'm going to do is announce it tomorrow during the community meeting. As far, now that I needed enough people to figure out, like, hey, does the GitHub login work? And we were in the middle of doing a DNS change, so I wanted to invite enough people to kind of break it so we could figure out things like this HTTPS forward and stuff like that. But yeah, now that I figured out that I have access to the store and stuff, we're going to incentivize people. I've been talking to people who've been announcing things on the list to kind of, hey, can you repost this? I've sent a mail to Caitlin at the CNCF. Hey, could you give us a hand? Can I kind of, regurgitating stuff like that? So I'm kind of hoping for like the big splash to be tomorrow during and after the community meeting.
For somebody who's never used Discourse, is there something you would recommend to just like orient to how you're supposed to use the platform?
Yeah, so the chef folks actually wrote this all up, and I have links and stuff, but they're all buried in the cap. I think I should surface those better. So I will work on that a little bit.
So another way that we can get more content in there as well is for us all to post in there.
Mm-hmm.
Not just the rest of the community, but also making sure that we utilize this as much as possible. So if we have Kubernetes questions, go to this instead of going to Slack. So also training ourselves to do this.
Yeah. Also, if people could start to think, because there is a full API and things like that, if people could start to think of clever ways that we can do that. So like right now, if we want to announce something, we have to do Twitter, Slack, the list, and Discourse, let's say, right? Even though it has an email alias for each thing, but let's not worry about that right now. But like, it would be neat if we had like one announcements thing, say,
there's a Zapier, or if it's an app.
Yeah, or like think of some ways, like, like at work we use HubSpot or whatever the one that schedules tweets is or whatever. So people could start to put some effort into thinking, what do we want to be the single source of truth in a way that allows people to do like maybe an announcement once, but that doesn't turn into a spammy hot mess either.
So I think Slack is the problem. I mean, Slack is the one that's cut all. I mean, and I say that in the nicest way possible. I mean, they're the ones that have cut all the webhooks and all the APIs and stuff like that. I mean, that's why we can't get information out of Slack right now, and into other pipelines. So I don't think we should think about Slack wanting to play nice with other communication platforms.
But we can push to Slack, can't we?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. Because in Discourse, there's like a Slack integration thing I haven't turned on yet. That's one of the things I wanted to figure out. Also, I should have mentioned, when I announced all this and stuff yesterday night, we specifically did not announce to Dash users. It was basically Devil only, and then on Twitter, and then a few here. So I purposely didn't want all Kubernetes flooding it yet. What I wanted to do is get like 30 or 40 cool videos and the stuff that Jonas was talking about in there. So if you want to try the introduce yourself thread is a good place to begin.
So are you saying Slack cut webhooks for Kubernetes specifically, or for?
For instance, with IRC, Slack, I guess, is just trying to make a statement that they don't want information going out because they think that's like a data concern. So I think this is not Kubernetes. This is Slack. And this is
Slack
kind of, this is how we've started the conversation with Slack, period, because folks were using IRC, and then they cut off all the instances of being able to cross post.
Right. So that's kind of how I got into this mess, because initially it was like, well, someone should start looking at a solution. But the thing is after 10 minutes of talking about this, it always comes down to, well, let's look at our communications holistically across the project. And that's how I ended up trying to scope it to one thing. But like inevitably, I mean, this kind of forces the whole project to talk about like who's going to be in charge of our data. Like, are we losing too much of one platform and not the other? But this platform is really good for us and gives us a lot of control, but this one might not, or might not tomorrow. So, my post in the dev list kind of goes along that way, is that like, there's a reason that like, we just didn't decide to just do a Slack clone and spin something up and things like that. So I hope that kind of shows how I ended up starting to solve A and I came out solving D, I think. So I don't know. I'm ready for the bike shedding all cycle. I'm good. I've made my peace with God and stuff.
Red. I want it red. I mean blue. Nobody else has color preferences, really?
Just
Not
make
that
sure
blue.
you use the
The
bike
other
set emoji. It cycles through all the colors. It's great.
Yeah.
All right. Any other serious comments, questions, or concerns?
I have one thing to say.
Yeah.
So I'm trying to start a Kubernetes cloud native meetup in the North Bay. So if any of you have any sort of advice or whatever, reach out to Zach or I, because this is totally new for us and we can use some help.
We have much advice here in Michigan.
I built the Vegas one. You can ask me anything you want.
Looks like you got a couple resources, and Austin, I said, of course, I'll help you. Just let me get through IO, and
Of course.
life will be a little easier for me. But we can even set up a meetup discussion group or Kubernetes meetup organizers group on the Slack instance, and start sharing war stories if you want.
Okay, great. And I'll reach out to you, Noah. Thanks. Thanks, everyone.
Yeah. All right. Last minute questions, concerns, comments, additions to the agenda, or else we get 20 minutes of our life back. Aaron, you're not dying to say anything?
Come on, Aaron. I want to
Okay. Okay, fine. Sure. I have the speaking stone now. So I don't know. I wasn't sure whether or not I should say anything. This is the first time I've gone through something like this, but I like you all very much. So I figured I wanted to say to your virtual faces that I'm going to be dropping off the face of the Kubernetes Earth for a little while. Friday is going to be my last day with Samsung, and then I'm taking some time to disconnect and recharge. So if there's anything that you think is on my plate that you need my help with, please get in contact with me. I'm going to try and shuffle off what I need to the appropriate parties. I don't think there's anything on the critical path that has my name on it, and I'll be working to ensure that over the next couple of days. But anyway, just if I start to get really super unresponsive, now you know why, and I'll be back soon.
Have fun.
Take some time.
I need some help with my feelings.
Yeah.
Yeah. Enjoy your time off.
Yes.
For real.
Yeah, I'm happy for you, but I'm also sad.
Yes. Likewise.
Very, yeah.
Should have spent more time with you.
Just give somebody else the speaking stone. Don't leave with it.
Yeah. Not allowed to with you.
Take us with you, Aaron. Take us with you.
Thanks, everybody.
That was like one big virtual hug in a weird way. So yeah.
I hope you go someplace sunny and warm.
Yes.
Or cold if you like that. If that's
If you do, at least open up the contributor experience and show us via Zoom.
Yes.
All right, y'all. Well, it's been real, Aaron. That's good, awesome, and we hope you get some time. So, all right, it's been real. I'll see everybody here at the same time.
That's amazing.
At the same time next week.
See you all later.
See ya.
Bright and early.
I'm going to try and see if I can jump over to George's and do the same thing.
Let's not do that.
Yeah, I know.
See
Goodbye,
ya.
everybody. Peace out.
Bye.
Happy Wednesday.